Hey guys, this is Faith Cawthon-Green, and I wanted to go live today because God put something on my heart to share. And as I've been dealing with a lot of going through a healing process, and God has been revealing a lot about trauma to me, and He's talking to me about seeing things through the lens of trauma, and how, so many of the traumatic things that have happened in my life, I want to just take a moment and talk about that for a moment. Sometimes we think about trauma as some big, huge thing that happened to us, but trauma can be something that had a heavy impact on us. And sometimes we don't even know that there are small things that had a big impact on our lives, the way that we do things, the way that we perceive things, the way that we operate in relationships. And so I just kind of want to talk about that today, because what God was showing me about myself, excuse the kids in the background, but what God was showing me about myself is that for a long time, I've looked at life, at things in front of me through the lens of trauma instead of through the lens of truth. And what I mean when I say that is, for instance, if something happened to me, let's say I came out of a bad relationship, right? And God was like, then you start to do damage control. So you come out of a relationship, and then instead of having to feel the pain of what happened through the trauma of that relationship, of that hardship, of that adversity, then you try to do damage control. So you try to control the damage that trauma did to you by now trying to employ something else that's going to take your mind off of the traumatic event, take your mind off of that hurt, take your mind off of that wound. Now you're doing damage control, but you really just creating more damage. You're really just creating more problems, because you don't want to feel the pain of the trauma. So he was talking to me about looking at life through the lens of trauma. And so a lot of times what happens, like I said, I'll do damage control because I don't want to feel the pain of that trauma. I don't want to feel the pain of that loss. I don't want to feel the pain of that betrayal, of that disrespect, of that disappointment. So then we start to do damage control. So we're like, well, fine, I'm going to back out of that situation. I'm going to go into a new situation. And we try to use that new situation to cover up the pain, or to cope with, or to numb the pain of that past trauma, that past situation, that past experience. But then what also happens is, as we're going forward, we look at every new situation, instead of looking at it as an opportunity to heal from the trauma, as an opportunity to be restored from that trauma, as an opportunity to have a different experience from that trauma. We see it as another potential trauma. I ain't really trying to go into this, because what if it has the same result as that last experience that I had? What if it has the same feeling? What if it has the same outcome? What if I experience the same thing? What if that person does the same thing to me? Then we miss out on the blessing of restoration that God is trying to put in front of us, because we're still looking at everything in life through the lens of trauma instead of the lens of truth. See, sometimes we'll have situations and circumstances that might look or feel similar to what happened in that trauma. But the truth is that it's not the same. But because you're looking at it through the lens of trauma, you're perceiving it as another potential opportunity for trauma to cause damage and wreck your life. To make you feel that same pain that you felt the last time that you experienced that trauma. To make you feel that same pain that you felt the last time that you experienced that disappointment. And oftentimes it's not the same. It reminds me of the song by Music Soul Child, where he says, previous cast, don't blame me for what the previous cast did, because I ain't them. And I think a lot of times what happens is we miss out on what could be a blessing, what could be God trying to restore you from that trauma, because you're still looking at the situation through the lens of your past trauma. And so the Bible says that the heart is deceitful. So a lot of times, you know, when we look at people, when we look at situations, as we're going into new situations, as we're going into new seasons, as we're going into new experiences in our lives, we have got to go to God for the truth of what that situation is. Because only He knows the true heart or the true intention of that person, or those people that we're looking, that are in front of us, as far as a new situation, a new relationship, a new partnership, whatever it is, a new friendship, whatever it is. And we've got to go to God for the truth of what the intention of that person is, because the heart is deceitful. And a lot of times, you know, the heart has muscle memory. The body has muscle memory. And so a lot of times we lead with our trauma, because you know, in life, we tend to focus more on negative things that happen. We give the negative things more energy than we do the positive things. Just like when a child misbehaves, a child that's good all the time, you know, you kind of come to expect it, but then when they misbehave, you give that bad behavior that's more attention than you do the good behavior. And a lot of times that's what happens with our trauma too, is we give our trauma more attention. We give that traumatic behavior more space, more room in our lives, because all we can remember is how bad it hurt me, how much I was disappointed, how much I felt betrayed, how wounded I was, how long it took me to get up from that situation. And so what we keep at the forefront of our mind is what we lost from experiencing that trauma, instead of putting at the forefront of our mind what we could potentially gain by the next experience that God is putting in front of us. So a lot of times God is trying to flush the trauma out by giving you an opportunity for a restorative experience. But because you're still looking at your whole life through the lens of that trauma, you're missing the truth about what God is trying to do in your life. And so we've got to stop leading with our trauma, and we've got to start leading with truth. Start allowing truth to lead us and guide us, and stop operating from the place of trauma. You know, a lot of times we develop these traumatic behaviors. I'll tell you mine. Mine is to retreat. Like, as soon as I see that something is about to be off, or I see somebody that reminds me of somebody that hurt me before, or an experience that reminds me of something or someone that hurt me before, I retreat. I'll be like, nope. I'll be quick to cut you off and be like, no, and I'm good for cold turkey. And God was like, that's a traumatic response. And you have got to stop operating in the traumatic response, because your trauma is going to cause you to lose the opportunity for redemption, or an opportunity for restoration from your past traumas, from your past experiences. And so, you know, sometimes we're missing it. And I'll tell you the other thing that I've been learning about this is about relationships specifically in general. As I've been going through this, you know, process of healing, I've been starting to really take inventory of my life, and my life has changed drastically. My mindset has changed drastically. My heart posture has changed drastically. And so it's causing me to really start to take inventory of what still fits. And this is the other thing that I want you guys to remember, because a lot of times, you know, we associate things with our identity that aren't actually attached to our true identity. We associate things, we associate people, we associate experiences, we associate likes and dislikes and activities and jobs. We associate opportunities, we associate skills and talents with our identity, when sometimes those things are not a part of our identity. And so as you go through new seasons in life, it's important to take inventory. Think of those things as garments that you wear. And you got a suitcase, right? You got a suitcase full of garments, and you're taking a suitcase full of garments through life, right? Well, there are seasons where sweaters are in season, and then there are seasons where you don't need to wear sweaters. There are seasons where sundresses are in season, and then there are seasons where you don't need to wear sundresses. There are seasons where boots are in season, and seasons where sandals are in season. And sometimes you can't carry those things through certain seasons. They're good for a certain type of season, and then they're not good for another type of season. And then the other thing is, you have to decide if they still fit. There are some relationships that you're trying to carry forward that don't fit you anymore because they're too small for you. There are some circumstances, there are some situations, there are some opportunities that you're still trying to carry and you're still trying to carry forward with you. There's still some perceptions and some mindsets that don't fit anymore. There are some activities. I'll give you one. For instance, for me, like, I used to be extremely social. I used to like to go out and brunch and do all of these things and hang out and do all of these things. And as I've been taking inventory of my life, you know, as I've been going through the healing process, what I'm also going through is a rediscovery of myself and my identity. And I'm taking off all those garments that I thought were a part of my identity, but are actually not a part of my identity. And so as I'm taking off those garments, I'm starting to discover what my true identity is, and discover that some of these things that I put on weren't actually me. They weren't really me. I put them on because I wanted to be a part of something. I put them on because I wanted to fit in. I put them on because I wanted to be successful. I put them on because I wanted validation from certain groups of people, from certain family members or whatever. And now that I am really stripped down and I'm going, does this coat really match me and who I am now? Is this shoe really my style anymore? Is this relationship really my style? Is this friendship, does it still fit me? Have I outgrown it? Is it too small for me now? Is this mindset too small for me now? Is this opportunity too small for me now? Is this relationship too small for me now? Now then you got to, once you stop looking at life through the lens of trauma and you start to look at it through the lens of truth, then you can really start to take inventory of those situations and go, this don't fit me no more. This don't fit me no more. I know it seems good to go back and do that stuff that I was doing before I healed, but it just doesn't feel like it fits anymore. I know it seems good to go back and hang with those people that I was hanging with before, but it just doesn't feel like it fits anymore. I know it seems good to go back to that job that I had, but it just doesn't feel like it fits anymore. And so you gotta start looking at your life through the lens of truth and not just taking things with you because they've been in your suitcase, but because they've been a part of your journey. Sometimes it's just like when a new season comes around, you do spring cleaning, right? You get rid of old stuff. You go, this doesn't fit anymore. This isn't in season anymore. Let me toss it out. And then what do? You take it, you give it away, you take it to Goodwill, or you throw it out, or whatever you do. You take it to consignment shop, whatever you do. But we've got to start doing that in our lives too, because some of us, oftentimes we take people with us that aren't meant for the season that we're going into. We take situations with us that aren't meant. We take mindsets. We take routines with us. We take different things with us that aren't meant for us in the new season because we've convinced ourselves that those things were a part of who we are, and they're just not. Maybe they were a part of who you were trying to be before, but when you start to really discover who you actually are, then you have to go, this doesn't fit me anymore. This is too small for me. This isn't my style anymore. This isn't the person who I am anymore. These are not the things that I like to do anymore. And you gotta let go of the status quo of what you used to do. You got to let go of the perception of the people who thought they knew you from when you were before. And now you've got to force people to get to know you, or charge people to get to know you for who you are now. Now that you've taken off all those old garments, are they still looking for what you were wearing before? And if you're not wearing those things and you're not carrying those things anymore, are those people still going to be okay with being a part of your circle? If you don't do the same things, if you don't wear the same things, if you don't think the same way, are they going to be okay with the new and improved you? Because a real covenant relationship is able to shift and grow with you and adapt with you. If they're not moving with who you're becoming, because we never stay the same. We never stay the same. We're always changing. We're always adapting. Well, that's what we're supposed to do. Some of us are staying in position. Some of us are choosing not to change. Some of us are choosing not to grow. But we're supposed to always be growing. We're never a really complete work. There's always something that God is trying to do in us, a work that he's trying to do in us. And so you have to surround yourself with people that understand that and are not going to be upset with you because you don't look like the person that you were 2 years ago or 10 years ago or 10 months ago. And because they're okay with your growth, because they understand that with growth, it's making you a better person. It's getting you closer to who God called you to be. With growth, it means that you're getting to be your very best self. And those are the kind of people that you want and you need in your life. Those are real covenant relationships. So ask yourself, are you looking through the lens of trauma? Or are you looking through the lens of truth? Take inventory. Love you. Bye.